So my last two videos haven't necessarily been positive, so today I thought we'd do a happy one and celebrate the movies of the 2010s together. Well, actually it's just me, alone in my room, at 2 in the morning, but anyway, today I'll be ranking the 10 best movies of the decade. Now this is simply and utterly my opinion, and I'm not necessarily ranking these movies based on them being cinematic masterpieces or Oscar worthy, but rather just my own personal favorites, and the films I've been watching over and over again throughout the decade. That's not to leave the impression that these movies aren't great. Every movie on this list I'd greatly recommend to anyone who likes good movies and good times. There are definitely movies on this list that will cater to anyone, and I hope some of you find some new fun and inspiring movies to watch. All these movies have left some sort of emotional impact on me, and hopefully will do the same to you. A quick rule for this video is that I'll only be including max 2 movies from one franchise. Otherwise the MCU would take over. Also take into account that the decade started with 9-year-old me who enjoyed loud bangs and people dying, and ended with me, an 18-year-old who enjoys more of the technical aspects of movies, and people dying. I'd love to hear your own personal list down in the comments, so don't be afraid to share. But without further rambling, here are the top 10 best movies of the decade. At number 10 we have Inception. Now, Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors, and if The Dark Knight had been in this decade, it would have ranked incredibly high on the list. Inception is a movie that I didn't appreciate enough when it came out, but I've grown to love its complex characters and story. The acting in this movie is superb and is helped greatly by its great cast. It's heartbreaking, action-packed, thought-provoking, all at the same time. If you're looking for a science fiction thriller with a solid plot that keeps you engaged, then definitely watch Inception. It's really good. At number 9 we have Kung Fu Panda 2. Now, if the first movie had been in this decade, then it would have also ranked incredibly high on this list, but it didn't. However, the second installation in this story does not disappoint. The animation is beautiful, the action is fun and engaging, the character development is amazing, especially Poe and Tigress. There are some really emotional scenes in this movie that will bring you close to tears. It's a wonderful movie and it's perfect for relaxing to. I'd highly recommend it. But start with the first one. At number 8, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. Being the only movie we have outside of the Infinity Saga, it's really allowed to stand on its own. The events of Endgame are still present and we feel the consequences, but these traits only help enhance the movie instead of being the movie. I love the teen drama in this movie, the dynamic between Peter and MJ is done so well in this, and all the characters work well together. Mysterio is everything I ever wanted from Mysterio, a smart manipulative crackhead who just wants to tear down Peter Parker, and everything Iron Man stood for. This movie is one of the best movies in the MCU and is worth watching by anyone who enjoys superhero movies, fun action adventures, or just teen dramas. It has everything. At number 7 we have Logan. This is the first R-rated movie on this list, but not the last. Spoiler warning. Logan is really, really good. It's not necessarily an X-Men movie, which is probably why I like it, but most of the emotional impact comes from knowing about the character of Wolverine and Professor X. It's a movie that rewards comic book fans, but provides a perfectly rich story for a casual moviegoer. If you're underage, then it's not made for you, obviously, but fuck it, I watched worse when I was 5. However, the goriness suits this western take on Wolverine so much. It's heartfelt, it has amazing acting from everyone, and has a perfect send-off for the Wolverine character. It stands perfectly fine as a standalone film, so watch it. It's awesome.
Ah, America, the birthplace of AIDS.
The Dictator is one of the most hilarious films I've ever seen. Sacha Baron Cohen is phenomenal, and if you enjoy satirical skits on politics, black humor, or wacky stories, then this movie is a must-watch. It's not a movie that needs to be taken seriously, so you can just sit down, relax, and enjoy the ride. I don't have much else to say. It's my favorite comedy movie ever, so watch it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is amazing. The animation in this movie is arguably some of the best animation I've ever seen. It's comic book brought to life. The art styles for the different characters, from a Cartoon Network-y style to an anime style, bring so much to life to this movie, and you can just tell the people who made it really care. But yeah, the animation is great. Everyone knows that, but this movie is arguably the best Spider-Man movie ever made, and the best Spider-Man story. It perfectly encapsulates what Spider-Man and Peter Parker is, even when the main character isn't Peter. All the characters work so well together, and there are some deeply emotional scenes. The score is great, the songs are great, they add to the story, and the story is great. I can't fault this movie for anything. Even if you don't like superhero movies, this movie is easy to watch and leaves an emotional, resonant impact on you afterwards. I recommend it so much. Watch it. Number 4 brings in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Harry Potter are probably the 3 franchises that define my childhood, so of course this movie is going to be on the list. The Harry Potter movies have some flaws. For example, Ginny's character is a shell of what she is in the books. She's just not interesting and barely even a character. But they perfectly bring to life the world of Harry Potter. But I need to speak about this movie in particular, so here goes. The visuals are stunning, music is gorgeous as always. The acting is actually pretty solid. These movies have great casts, we all know it. It's a perfect end of an 8-movie series, and it feels like an actual war. Children die, innocents die, characters we care about die. It's hopeful and hopeless at the same time. It's a beautiful movie, and it's a perfect end to a franchise that helped define my childhood. I don't need to recommend it. If you haven't watched Harry Potter, you probably won't. So, yeah, it's a good movie. For the number 3 spot, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I can imagine this is where people click off the video, but I really, really like this movie. Star Wars means everything to me, and this movie, despite its flaws, resonated so deeply with me. Maybe it's just because people hate it, and I'm against that hate, but I think it has things no other Star Wars movie has. Luke's character arc is one of the most well-written character arcs in any of the Star Wars movies, and his redemption scene had me screaming inside. I couldn't contain my own excitement when he walked out and faced down the First Order. It made me feel as though I was 4 again watching Return of the Jedi. I love the dynamic between Kylo and Rey. I think Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver do an amazing job here to show the lust for a personal bond from both of these characters, all while having to fight each other because of their contrasting morals. It's poetic. This movie was Star Wars to me. It may not be for everyone, but it's one of the most unique movies in terms of story, purpose, and expectation subversion in the Star Wars series. I recommend that anyone who didn't like this movie give it a second chance, with an open opinion, and be ready to look past its flaws like we do for every other Star Wars movie. You won't regret it. At number 2 we have Joker. This is the most recent movie on the list, but it absolutely blew me away. The Joker is one of my favorite characters in fictional media, and this film does him justice. First of all, the acting from Joaquin Phoenix is flawless. He's so fucking talented, it's insane. Him being Arthur Fleck is 100% believable to me. I love the deep look into mental illness and the general neglect to acknowledge psychological disorders that's seen in society today. As a psychology student myself and someone who has experienced mental problems in loved ones over and over again, this real look into the crippling effect of psychological and mental issues was so impactful to me. This is arguably the objectively best movie on this list, and is already one of my all-time favorite movies. Now this video was extremely hard to make. Narrowing down this decade down into 10 movies was difficult, so here are some honorable mentions. Star Wars: The Force Awakens reignited my love and passion for Star Wars, and is a fun and exciting movie with good characters, amazing visuals, and a fun story to follow. It's a great way for a person to get the feeling of Star Wars and the emotions behind it. The Imitation Game is complex, daring, and emotional, and it rewards you for paying attention. Benedict Cumberbatch is fantastic in this movie, and the supporting cast is great as always. If you want a solid movie with great themes and a story, then watch this one. But now to my favorite movie of the decade.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Alright, I know these are 2 films, but in my eyes they go together. You can't watch Infinity War without watching Endgame. These movies perfectly exemplify what 10 years worth of movies can bring. To a casual movie fan, these movies won't have nearly the same emotional impact that they had on me, because they're the culmination of over 20 movies in one universe. Endgame is the most ambitious movie ever made, and it works perfectly. The emotions you feel during this movie are unrivaled if you love the MCU. I'm not going to say much more about them. They're amazing, I love them. They're not cinematic masterpieces, but at the same time, yes they are. They're fucking amazing. Well, there you have it. Those were my top 10 movies of the decade. So if you agree or disagree, then I'd love to hear your own personal list down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.